You just literally just went. You said you just went to the, what kind of store?
I got it at the corner store. I got incense at the corner store, and I have absolutely no idea where it went. It's just disappeared somewhere. It's gotten absorbed into my room somehow.
Whoa.
But like my room it's clean, but it's got like it's a very complicated space. There's a lot going on because I have multiple different mediums that I'm working in constantly. So it ends up getting like, just things get absorbed. They get eaten into it.
Immediately. Hey, everybody, and welcome to Lost in the Groove. Today, we have an interview with a special guest that has a little bit of history with Lost. Give it up for Eli Nerát, ladies and gents, and all you non-binary people. Eli, how do we describe Eli? Eli, would you like to give a little introduction?
Sure. Well, I used to be on your podcast. For anybody who used to listen, like last year, I was on most of the year, and then I did a special episode a couple years ago about ketamine as a psychoactive healing thing. And then I am a multimedia artist and designer. I work in the film industry when it exists, and
we'll get into that a little bit.
I live with my partner, and we have I live in Los Angeles. I live with my partner, and we have 4 fat rats. And I'm currently working on a painting as we speak.
Beautiful painting. A fantastic painting.
Thank you.
And to add, actually, yes, Eli is one of the pioneer guests, I'm going to call him, that came onto the podcast real early on. And it's actually one of the most downloaded and listened episodes on the podcast. I think it's now 48 downloads and listens. It's crazy. So really appreciate that. And yeah, Eli was a part of the Lost in the Groove. We did Peace of Mind, which was so fucking fun. It feels like it was yesterday, but
it was a lot of fun.
It's like 5 months ago, which is crazy.
I know it is. It's a long time. And like, I had to stop because at the time I was working a lot, and I had 0 days off a week. And so it just ended up getting really, really crazy for me. I was just exhausted all the time, but I love it. And I love to support it from a distance.
From a distance between us.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we were talking about this a little bit earlier on the phone because we actually we haven't talked or really communicated that much in a while. And
yes.
So, okay, here's the tea, everybody. I keep up with a lot of guests and people that I'm friends with, on Instagram. I'll see posts coming here and there. And then you started putting out posts that Hollywood is over, no one is working. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? And then today
I didn't post that Hollywood is over. I just posted that things have been super, super dead in the production industry.
Right. Sorry, that's how I interpreted it.
It never ends. I mean, it's it ebbs and it flows. It goes in waves, and it always goes in waves. And you kind of, when you start working in that world, you know that it goes in waves. But recently, the wave has been a very, very, very long wave of nothing.
How long did you tell me? It was 5 months?
About 5 months. So the last time I had any considerable work was in November. Which is crazy.
Yeah.
November is a long time ago. I've had a couple gigs here and there, and I know people who have had even less than I have. But there's just been nothing going on lately. And I think that there's a lot of reasons behind it. The writer's strike is definitely one of the big ones. It's probably the biggest one, but there's other things at play as well. And it's been wild because you don't really realize how much the film industry and the production industry affects everything else. Until you see it kind of disappear, and then you realize that it is the economy here, in LA, it's think about a factory town. So the factory is making media.
Well, think about how LA was built.
It's like a Ford plant, except that it's Hollywood.
Well, think about like how LA was built. LA was purposely put there because in one direction you have frosty mountains, in the other direction you got the
Yes.
desert, in the other direction you got a forest. You had a lot of really great places to do film. So to add to your point,
Yes.
Los Angeles is built on the film and entertainment industry. That's what it was
It
designed
is.
for. So when you
And it's one
have
of the biggest export. Yeah, it's our biggest export. And it's one of the US's biggest export media. So like when you think about it, it's like when the film industry is not doing very well, then that has a ripple effect through everything else. It means the service industry isn't doing very well because everybody who's in the film industry, they're not ordering like massive lunches from restaurants. They're not going out and getting drinks after at a wrap party. They're not going out and they're spending their money. So because like we're not making any money, so we're just like holding up inside of our houses, and everyone's doing the same thing reasonably that I'm doing. Some people are playing video games. Some people are trying to find alternative income. I've tried to find alternative income as well. Like I found little side hustles and everything because like I'm a very resourceful person, but like it's nothing is the same because it's like when you're living in that world, you also end up kind of expanding into that world. So like you have to maintain like enough money to keep like your like living space, your lifestyle, like what you've been working towards and cultivating alive.
you mentioned this, and I wasn't able to find anything that correlated to this, but Rust, what happened with Alec Baldwin?
I have a theory. So I have a theory about this, and I don't think that this is like I don't think this is like an official thing. Like I don't think anyone would say like, oh yes, officially, like this
This
is
is
part
your
of what's
thought,
going on. But this is my thought on it is that
right?
I think that because that was such a travesty with what happened with like we should probably explain what happened. So basically like there wasn't an armor on set or somebody to handle the guns properly. I think they just didn't hire one, which is insane because it was like a multi-million dollar like union level like music movie. Like it's a huge film. Like the executive producer he is Alec Baldwin.
Yeah.
And so he was not only the actor, he was also the executive producer. And so basically he was like fucking around with the gun, and the gun had didn't have blanks in it. It had actual bullets in it. And so he accidentally shot like three people and he killed one. And the woman that he killed, the very next week, there's the rest. The very next week, I ended up working with somebody who was like friends with that woman. And like I knew people, like it was like literally a stone's throw. Like I'd never met her, but like I knew people who knew her and like worked with her like extensively at certain points. And like it's crazy because it's like not only is like the death of that person like not only is the death of that person like a big deal, but it also like highlights all this like just what people put crews through on in the film industry, the amount of hours, the like the way that they push people to breaking points and to points of exhaustion, the way that corners are cut so that you can have like the people who are making the top money can continue to make the top money versus like hiring an armorer, for example, hiring more art department to actually like take care of the weapons and clean them and like make sure that there's no fucking like bullets in the gun. Like those are all things that like your producer, your executive producer should be handling that. They should be delegating the funds to be able to hire the person who handles the gun so you have blanks in the gun so that you don't accidentally kill somebody. So it's just like it's you know what I mean? And like not only that, but like what came out afterwards was that they had been, and this is like once again, this is not just like this is not an independent thing because I know that with independent films, independent music videos, there is kind of there's a probability that you're going to end up working like 15 17-hour days certain days and stuff, and it's just kind of more the norm in the independent world. But like when you're on like high level union stuff, like you're supposed to adhere to the rules, and if not, you're supposed to adhere to the penalties. And a lot of these people had been working like 15 17-hour days, so you already have a crew that's completely exhausted, and you have an executive producer who's not making any decisions to favor the crew, and then the executive producer who's messing around with this thing that he's not supposed to be touching. The only people who are supposed to be touching the gun. So basically, like I've worked on sets that have had guns before, and like when you have a gun, you have the people who are the handlers, the gun handlers, the armor, and then like, or if it's not an official armor, it's like it's somebody who's delegated specifically. Your only job is just handling the gun, like that's it. And so basically, you take it from its case, you take its case, you move it over to the area, you open the case, it goes from you into the person who's using it as a prop. That person uses it as a prop. The very second that it's done, you put it back in the case and it goes away. Nobody should be shooting cans. Nobody should be messing with it. Nobody should be playing around with it at all. That's not what happens. This, like the project that I worked on where we had guns, it was not even like, it was just a commercial. And that was that, but that was the level of respect that everyone was treated with. So with this, yeah.
So it's to emphasize on this, which I think you bring out a really great point. There are a lot of things that happen behind the curtains that many people turn a blind eye for a variety of reasons. You know, we're using Alec Baldwin as an example. Now, you want to use another example, Tom Cruise. Everybody loves Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is another A-class celebrity. But his relationship with Scientology, as well as among other types of people, which I'm not going to list on this podcast, he's done a lot of shady things in his life. He's not a very clean person. And especially towards the industry, he's done a lot of things that he shouldn't have done. But that conversation doesn't really happen. That conversation of, well, you're the big executive.
It doesn't get publicized because the people, it doesn't get publicized because the people who have money don't want it to be publicized. You know, like the people who are at the top don't want that to be in the public. So like if anybody does report on it, it kind of gets buried because there's a lot of money in this world. But like, so yeah, I think that has something to do with it. Like you have like the writers going on strike, but at the same time, like there's a lot of like the writers like going on strike, that kind of like sets the tone for what the other department's going to ask for. I'm non-union personally, but like it affects everything. It affects union and it affects non-union. Like people say that it doesn't affect non-union, but it totally does because right now everything has been shut down for like months. And it was like, and the reason I think it has more to do, there's a lot more to it than just like the writer's strike is because the writer's strike would just happened. But like you had like several months beforehand where there was just like nothing going on. And of course, there's always a little bit of time around the holidays when there's nothing going on. So like if there's nothing going, if it's like pretty dead from the middle of December to like the middle of January, that's totally normal. But it's not normal for it to be dead from December to now.
It's just a very long period. And
it's a very long period and everybody's going crazy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We're all getting stir crazy. Yeah.
It's
crazy.
You know,
but yeah.
Let me ask you something. I mean, like in the amount of time that you've been doing what you're doing, working on prop sets and productions, and has it ever gotten to this point?
Not since I've worked in it, but I heard that in 2009 during the writer's strike back then, it was similar to this.
How long did that last?
I've heard tales. That lasted for months, like a few months. But I've heard, I mean, like, I've heard this could go on for a lot longer because it's a little bit more complicated this time too. Because there's also an element of like AI coming and replacing a lot of a lot of what people do. So like, and this is a whole other complicated issue, but it's kind of like at the end, it also comes back to like respect of the people who are working to some degree. But like with AI being able to create things, like it kind of eliminates a lot of the necessity for people who are like CGI people to have as many hours. So like if you have CGI people doing like, you know, frame by frame of X, Y, and Z, and like, you know, like you come up with this beautiful like Marvel background or whatever, like that's hundreds of hours from these people. And they're doing like frame by frame of these shots of like these superheroes going through the city or whatever. And then if you are going like, but if you have like an AI do it, like you can just like, these things are getting so powerful that like, and I'm not trying to be like conspiracy theorist, whatever with this, like, but it's like these things are getting so powerful that like you can literally just tell it, hey, I want this in every single frame, and it will create little fake movies for you.
Yeah,
and the movies look really real.
There's I found this out yesterday. I think it's called like Autopod, where it can take a video podcast and through artificial intelligence, it will by frame re-angle to each person that is speaking. So it'll cut up the clips to the point where like this could take somebody hours to do, but this is doing it in like a matter of like 15 minutes.
Right. And like, and it's like on some levels, it's cool because it allows people to become more independent. So they're not dependent on having to learn X, Y, and Z to be able to do it. But at the same time, it's eliminating a lot of jobs that already exist. So you're eliminating departments right and left. So there's that aspect of it too. And it's been fucking weird. The energy's been very strange. I feel like LA doesn't even feel like LA right now.
In what way? I mean,
feel
do
like
you
I should
feel
grab
like
a rat. Let me grab a pet rat.
this cat? Well, for
I'm still
anybody for anybody that is curious what the fuck is going on right now, well, let me tell you. So Twixie is my little fur baby. I've had her for about 4 years and counting. And she is the official producer of the Lost in the Groove podcast. And I don't know which
He's
one
Mr.
this.
Moon Pie. He's
this
my
is
co-host.
Mr. So this is Eli's fur baby. His name is Mr. Moon Pie.
We have 4.
4.
This is Mr. Moon Pie. He's our pet rat.
He's
our
fattest.
fattest rat. Yes.
With the weird,
and the oldest right now.
With the funky tail.
Kinky tail. Yes. He's got a little crooked tail. He's the best.
So I mean, like you being home all the time. I mean, you taking this break for this pastime. I mean, you know, I'm speaking to you. I'm assuming that other people have gone through a similar experience to yourself. How has it been for the past few months on like your mental health and your physical health not, working?
Well, it's been bad. It's been not good. Like I'm somebody who likes to I like to keep busy. I mean, obviously I've been working in a lot of my own pieces as well. Like I have tons of things I can show you, like, oh, here's a piece. There's a piece.
You showed me that earlier. It's a beautiful piece.
I did. Thank you. It's that one's of my partner. We have like that guy. I love that guy. I came up with this guy when I was in the psych ward, which I was in recently because things have gotten so weird and my brain was just like not having it. This one I did for a friend. This one's really fun. That's what I've been doing. I've been just putting my energy into my artwork. But at the same time, it's like I can enjoy it, but there's still the stress of how are we going to pay the bills next month? There's still the stress of like what's happening with my career really. And it's like physically it's taking a toll on me as well because I feel like I'm just not as in like I'm usually like a pretty hyperactive and active person and I've just been super sedentary. And it's like because it's like I don't want to spend money going out places. I pretty much just want to like make my life as small as possible right now because I'm trying to just like save money and like just make it stretch it as far as I can go. So it makes it complicated. And I think just like the stress of not just not working, like this is something that I've talked to people about. This is something that I've encountered with a lot of other people in my industry where it's like there's this feeling of like, well, if it was just something that was wrong with what I'm doing, then I could change it. Like, you know what I mean? Where it's like if this is something that like that you're doing that's fucking up, like say that you're doing something wrong and so that's why you're not getting hired. Well, you can change what you're doing. You can change your attitude, you can change your behavior, you can change
your perspective.
You can develop your perspective, you can develop better skills, like you can learn and you can grow. But if it's something that has nothing to do with you, then it's scarier because it's just like, well, what are you supposed to do?
I can relate.
Like what can you do?
I can relate on a topic on this, and it's something that's been going on recently with anti-Semitism.
Tell me.
And for me, I'm Jewish, okay, and you feel you're being punished because of other people in your tribe that have done misdoing and they've done wrong by other people. And you ask yourself, like, I've been nothing but kind and I've done my part. I'm not a part of any of this, but yet I'm being punished for it. And this is the thing about being a part of a society. This is the thing about being part of a community is whether you want to accept it or not, you're going to be affected. There's no really way of getting yourself like, you know what, I'll say it, living in a goddamn utopia. It's not real. It's fiction.
Well, I think that something that taught us that the most was like quarantine, and just like how there's nothing that you could do that would like even if you were, even if you were healthy, even if your little, if your community was healthy or responsible or whatever, like the world still wouldn't wake back up. Like this world still was like under this lock and key for a long time. And I think that it was something that was like a great unifier, because it allowed us all to kind of realize that like we're all in this together, in a sense that I think a lot of people just like didn't like to think about. Because I think people like to think of themselves as separate and as better than, or just different than others. Like, oh, this isn't going to affect me. But it's like, it's going to affect you. Like at a certain level, something is going to affect you. It has to.
You can't hide. Tell your children you cannot hide. That's a line. I wasn't trying to be a groomer.
Oh, that's such a funny thing. Not funny, but that's such an interesting thing. Oh, just how everybody's saying like any age gap is grooming now. That's a whole other conversation.
Yes, it is. And I don't know. I feel like I'm not ready for it yet. I've told you this. I have a very the way I explain it is I have a very conservative outlook, but I have a very liberal perspective.
Yes. Well, for me, I don't know. I just used to date older people when I was young because everyone that was my age was really boring.
Yeah. But
at the same time, now I'm older and I'm like, I can't imagine. I wouldn't want to date somebody that was, my age when I was dating older people. But I from a younger perspective, I understand wanting to date older people and I don't think for me, it wasn't grooming. At least for me, it was like, I just thought everyone my age was really lame.
I personally hang around people that are a lot older than me. I always have. Most of my friends are in their 30s and 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I don't really relate very well with my age demographic. I don't really fit in. So that's where I feel comfortable. And like,
that's how I felt when I was younger as well.
I don't know, this whole age thing just drives me crazy because like I think about it like this. If I have a 17-year-old that comes up to me, and even better, a 15-year-old, and we're talking. Just talking. We're having, he's talking to me and I'm talking to him. We're having a conversation. In that moment, does it matter that he's 15 years old?
For the conversation, no, but I think if it goes into something sexual, then yes.
Yes, but I'm saying non-sexual. I'm talking about
of age. I think it shouldn't matter.
What do you mean?
Like once the person is like an adult, I think it shouldn't matter how old they're, like whether they date older people or not.
Well, I don't think anybody should be questioned about like age range that they choose of dating. If somebody is in their 80s and they choose to be with somebody in their 20s or 30s.
Yeah.
I mean, whether
as long as that's what I'm saying, as long as everybody is like an age of above the age of consent, like not age, but above like 18, 21, like who cares? Anyway, this is a whole other conversation though.
Yes, this is whoa. This is interesting marijuana. This bag of weed has taken me on a lot of journeys.
Look, I added clouds.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a piece you've been working on. And that's
This is the piece that I've been working on, and it's a conversation. It's like based on a conversation that I had with a friend when I lived in San Diego like 13 years ago, and then we lost touch for many years, and then he reached out to me after like I went to the mental hospital recently, and he was just like, "Hey, I went to the psych ward too," and I was just like, "Oh, cool," and he was just like, "Let's share a story sometime," and I was like, "Totally," and then we started texting about like or messaging about and he was just like, "Oh, this conversation that we had one time, like at the banana bungalow, blah blah." And I was just like, "Oh, cool." And so he was just like, he's like, "I should feel like I should write a song about it." And I was just like, "Yeah, you totally should." I feel like I should paint a picture of it. So I'm painting a picture of it.
you might use it as the cover. You
Oh
should
yeah, you
definitely
totally
use
should.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we should definitely use this as a cover. I love that.
Great minds think
Yeah,
alike.
I like how it's turning out. Like I said, this is the beauty brush that I've this is how I'm making the clouds. This and then my finger.
Yeah. Wow.
Is this for blush? But obviously, I have not used it for blush. I've only used it for painting, despite having bought it for blush.
Yeah, this is DIY at its finest. And I will say this: when you want to understand DIY, yeah, Eli is the person you go to for that. Like, what do you do with
Well,
this?
and
Ask Eli.
that's the thing. DIY is, I mean, okay, so like independent stuff is coming back. So like we definitely have a fair amount of independent stuff that's just like coming back in the world as well, which I think is really cool. Like so I started Underland Creations, which I told you about like, you know, before. And like Underland Creations is my like it's my multimedia art and design company. And it's just kind of all the things that I create. So anything from like paintings to like the rat pillows to clothes to jewelry to whatever. But then there was an element of it that was like sort of like my secret weapon, and that was Underland Productions. And so that is all original like content that we're going to be creating. And so we're actually going to be doing our first official Underland Productions production in like 3 weeks. And it's one of my best friend's songs that we're going to be turning into a music video, and we're going to be shooting two of it. So I'm directing and producing those under my independent label, which is going to be dope. But again, these are just
Mm-hmm.
like these. So like you know, the underground scene thrives when things are chaotic and when the world shuts down. But at the same time, the stress comes in because independent stuff just doesn't pay the bills, at least not for a while. And so it's like, unfortunately, we have to think about things like that. We have to think about the bills. We have to think about like, especially as we're adults, especially as we're like in our, you know, like I'm 36. So it's like, especially as we're in our like, you know, mid 30s and like planning towards the future and like wanting to have like, you know, kids and wanting to have like eventually have a space and things like that. So it gets stressful because it's like when you're constantly like, you know, I wasn't paycheck to paycheck. I was doing pretty good for a while. But like when you're constantly like not sure where things are going to come from, it makes it a lot harder to appreciate all the beautiful things that you're creating. Once
It's
again, capitalism just takes a shit.
it figures out its way. It's just what it does. It's how it's designed.
It's true, but like I was saying, like once again, capitalism just kind of takes a big shit in terms of and spoils the party.
Well, you know, it's kind of weird when you live in a society like we do. It's strange where there's so much at our fingertips. There's so much advancement, and but still the pyramid. There's still somebody on
Hmm.
top. You know, we called it in the days of old kings and kingdoms. Today's of ye. Uh, we call it presidents and prime ministers. You know, politicians and governors. The same shit. It's just a
Yes,
different name and a different face and a different
totally.
design.
It's true. But there has to be a middle ground. I am excited to see all the things that are coming out though. I love seeing what people come out with when we're in times of struggle. I think that's when some of the best art and some of the best like writing, some of the best poetry, some of the best just like concepts and ideas and like like musical pieces, all that stuff. It's like it comes out, it's the best when the world is kind of chaotic.
You know the best thing to listen to when the world is chaotic? Three things for me: Ramones, Velvet Underground, Patty motherfucking Smith.
Patti Smith is great. I've been listening to a lot of Big Booty Bass Collective lately.
Mm, I told you. Whenever you want. Okay, so few things we know about Eli. Number one, any questions about DIY? Eli's the person you go to. Yeah, number one. Number two, whenever you want to be like, music is boring. Well, Eli.
I have something to show you.
Exactly. Eli is
Let me show you
known.
this obscure fucking thing.
Yeah. Like you want a new music experience? Yeah, Eli will take you there. Trust me. Tell me more about this. I
It's
want to
true.
know.
What, Big Booty Bass Collective? They're great. Also, their name is great. So I first encountered them when I was at a festival with my cosmic sibling, Justin, who's also my cinematographer, back in like 3 years ago. So the two of us were at this part. We went to this festival, and I usually go to festivals and like I'll like work. I'll be part of like some big like camp or something, or like I'll be like like helping build a stage or an area or something. So like I'm usually it's like a working trip for me because like I'm kind of a workaholic. So basically, Justin was just like, this is right around your birthday and you should just come and just hang out and just meet all my friends and we won't have don't work, just like you don't have to work because it's already there. It's like a friends and family thing, so it's called Camp Trip. So we went to this festival called Camp Trip, and I got to meet all of Justin's friends because Justin is a good friend to everybody there. Like there it's like a lot of San Francisco crew and like some LA crew, and so I met some LA people that were there and stuff. And what they had, like their main event on Saturday night was like they had like a bunch of people from like Big Booty Bass Collective, which is just like a bunch of different bass DJs who just play some of like this fucking craziest, nastiest, like just like thickest, like sounds like you're communing with aliens when you're doing DMT on a pile of dirt. Like it's fantastic. And so it is just insane, and it's dance music, but it's like bass dance music. So it's like real fucking weird and cool. And so we just like danced our butts off, and yeah, I had a little DMT pen and I talked to the aliens and it was great. And I just fell in love with Big Booty Bass Collective. And then I found them on what's it called? SoundCloud. And then I found the set that I had fallen in love with. I think it's hard to remember, but I think it was the set, or at least it was something that felt similar to that set. And I've been listening to it a lot. And I just really love it. I love the artists that they have work with, and I love the different DJs that they have. And I think it's really dope. It's like, I mean, you have to like bass music. That's the only caveat because it's like it's very like nasty, crunchy, like dirty, not crunchy, but like dirty, like like thick bass music. It's great.
Again,
That's my story. Doing DMT on a hill, listening to Big Booty Bass Collective for my birthday
okay,
3 years
so
ago.
speaking of which of DMT, because we delve into psychedelics here on the Lost in the Groove. Turns out, I think there was a bunch of researchers that they were doing drip DMT so they can actually map out the world, like the DMT world.
That's cool.
And they've been able to like start
Yes.
mapping it out. And I was like, what the fuck? That's trippy.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense because it is like it's very much a world, the DMT world. Like it really is a place that you go. I don't really think the DMT is a drug. I think it's like a portal to another dimension.
It's
And I don't think it's like you can talk to them. Like I once got them pissed off at me because I was doing DMT too much, and I ended up poking my head through a cabbage. And then I got pissed off at the DMT aliens.
Jesus, what did they do?
I could just tell they were mad at me. So I was like, okay, I'll stop for a while. So I didn't do it again for a while.
Damn. I heard that they're like elves. They kind of look like elves.
Well, I have not encountered the elves. They're the machine elves. I haven't gone there yet. I've seen the dancing people.
The
I've had the
dancing
dancing people
people.
like yes. So like I've had the different entities dance against my pineal gland. So that was really cool. Um, I've gone to. I haven't seen the factories. I know that there are the DMT elf factories, and I have not gone there, but I have gone to the farmlands, and I have gone to the dancing area.
You could like walk around in
And
this
then I've
world.
seen a, you can walk around in, well, sort of. I mean, yes, you can walk around in the world, but like it kind of takes a lot of concentration. So you really have to like focus on what you're doing. But like also like you should go into it with meditation. You shouldn't go into it just being like, oh, I want to see some crazy shit. You should go into it with like with respect for it.
And give respect to the aliens. Peace and love,
Yes,
man.
give respect to the aliens. It's true.
Yeah,
Because
because
otherwise they'll get pissed off at you when you stick your head through a cabbage patch.
exactly. And
Okay, I think this is pretty much done.
you know, it'd be really cool. There was a
Huh.
bird.
Oh yeah, there could be a bird. I have to let everything dry a little bit.
Okay. Inspiration at
It's
its
kind of
finest.
wet
So
right now.
painting is being made here while we're doing this
It
podcast.
is. It's true. It's absolutely true.
Pure
Here's an
chaos.
abstract one I've been working on.
Ooh. Whoa.
I know. Saturn
Very
says it's like
abstract.
pizza.
Kind of.
It's just my
Yeah.
hand a bunch of times.
Whoa. You're not kidding when you say that your hand is your paintbrush.
Oh yeah, yeah, 100%.
Yes. It's crazy, like
But
the
yeah, so
things
this,
you can.
I mean, yeah, huh?
Nothing. Sorry. Huh? What? Where?
Oh no, what were you gonna say? The things that you can what?
Do with like I'm not that crafty. You have a brain of, oh, this, I can use that for this and that. You know, my
Oh
brain is
yeah,
like
100%.
does not compute, not processing, error, error, error. Well, that's in my head, but you get the picture.
I do get the picture.
Mm-hmm. Damn.
I mean, you just have to deconstruct reality, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
to some degree, and
But then you have
just be like,
gotta ask
huh?
yourself that. You gotta ask yourself that question. What is reality? And is
What?
reality real? Da, da, da.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's debatable.
Very debatable.
I'm giving the clouds some yellow to go with the sunrise.
That's beautiful. I like a beautiful sunrise.
Thank you.
I feel like it emphasizes. I feel like colors have a effect. I remember reading somewhere about this that like yellow makes people happy and like orange makes
Yes.
people feel safe. I don't know. Like, there's a whole thing about each color makes you feel a different thing.
Yes.
What's your thoughts on this, Eli? What's your thoughts about colors
I
giving
think
you
that's definitely
feelings?
true. I mean, I think that colors definitely give you feelings, but I think people gravitate towards colors like in different ways too, at different points in time in your life. Like I've definitely like have like multiple different like favorite colors, and like I definitely like gravitate towards colors in different points in time. Like I think that like right now and for like the last like like several months, my space has been sort of like sage green and white with this big like neon. Well, it has a bunch of things painted on it. Like it has clouds painted on it. It has like a mural on one side, and then it has like this whole like kind of ceiling mural thing situation going on. And I really love it, but because I feel like it's very peaceful while also still being very active. But like the sage green and like the blue that I have for the sky and the ceiling for that.
Mm.
So like the blue of that and also like the blue of the background of the mural. Those are both very like they're still very peaceful blues because blue can be like this blue, like the blue at the bottom of this painting. That's like a very bright, that's a very like active blue. And then you have like blues that have a little bit of green in them. Like those can be kind of active as well. And then but when you have like muted blues and greens, then you end up having like sort of more peaceful feelings. Like I think, and then red is supposed to be like passion or anger or just like a lot of intensity, like emotional
Lust.
intensity. Yeah, lust, exactly. It's a lot of things. See, look, I added yellow to the clouds. Look up.
It's really beautiful. It tells
So it's
it tells
thank
a
you.
really it tells a really great story. I mean, you were telling me that on the phone, story of the two of you.
Yeah.
Did you tell
Yeah, it was a cool story.
you tell the
Oh,
story
yeah.
already?
I sort of touched on it. Yeah, so basically like we were just like this friend and I, we were both like I was 23 and he was 26 and we would just like stay up like very late at night having these like super deep conversations. And we were kind of like two like we were both we were living in like I mean we were living and working in this hostel and we were basically like living and working in a party hostel and it was called the Banana Bungalow. It doesn't really exist anymore. The building still exists, but it got bought and it became something else, but it's in San Diego and it used to be in Pacific Beach. And he and I were just two people who like felt the world a little bit more than everybody else did. So we would just like, so we would have these conversations because we just kind of like we felt the heaviness around us in a way that other people didn't. And so like we would just stay up until all hours of the night, like having these deep conversations, sometimes until sunrise. And so that was like that was apparently there was this one conversation that had stuck with him that we reconnected after like I got out of the psych ward and he was like, hey, I was in the psych ward too. Let's compare notes. We still haven't. We need to. But like he was like, oh, there's this conversation that like that inspired that like I should be writing a song about it. And I was just like, that's really cool. I totally remember that conversation. I remember that whole experience. I feel like I want to paint a picture of it. And so like I painted a picture of it.
It's really I really love that you were able to take an experience, and that's sometimes what artists will do. We take an experience and we create something from it. Whether it be a picture or art.
Yes.
We were talking about this
Well, that's like
before.
how that's like for me, that's like how I feel like I understand the world is like by creating.
Right. And it's strange because that we were talking about this earlier, how artists can understand artists,
Yes.
but it's like for other people to understand how our minds work and think, I feel like it can be very difficult.
It can totally be very difficult and that's why it can be very alienating to be like this because like people expect you to be a certain way, like they expect you to be like fun or like crazy or like this or that, but like they don't really understand that like it just means that you're experiencing things at a high level like 24/7.
Right. And it's weird because we as humans, when we go through different experiences, whether it be trauma or life change, uh, our minds, our thinking, I don't, it becomes something else.
Yes. Well, we start to process the world in different ways. And like when we've gone through something that's like an intense thing, like it changes the way that we are able to receive information and assimilate information. So it's like I think that when you're an artist, you naturally just assimilate information in a different way. So it also means like, so like I write too, like I write books. And so like uh it's like you're living in the worlds of your characters. You're living in other people's lives. And that's kind of like how you're able to like how you experience the world is by putting yourself in everybody around you's shoes. Like 24/7.
Well, because you're surrounded by people all the time.
Yes.
It's kind of like a force of habit, or kind of just the way of how we're kind of taught how to think. You know,
Yes, we are.
sorry about
We are
that.
taught how to think.
We currently have a little bit of a situation, but thankfully I've been able to keep it under control. My computer ran out of storage, so we were about to lose all of the editing and everything, like the audio and video for this. But thankfully, I saved the day. By
Oh, good.
multitasking.
What happened? What just
I
happened? What
moved.
happened?
I basically moved a bunch of the files over to the hard drive, and I'm deleting them off
Cool.
the computer right now, so we have enough storage for this episode. I
To
do
finish the
not know why I'm
episode.
telling this to everyone, but good
It's good to know.
to
It's good to know
know.
that this was almost lost. We almost
Almost.
lost this whole episode, and
Mm-mm.
it's a good episode.
It's a fucking great episode. This has honestly been really
It's a very
amazing.
yes.
Like, I love how like we caught up, and I'm really sorry that you're going through this shit. This is not fun at all.
Thank you.
But
Hopefully it
but
changes. I'm sorry for everybody else who's going through it as well.
yeah. And actually to people that I'm actually curious, if you know somebody or are going through it, and you can email us at lost in the groove pod. No, at lost in the groove with 3 O's at gmail.com. And let us know your experience. I'd love to hear them. And Eli.
I always love that it's lost in the groove pod. It's like groove pod is like one word.
Groove
I like
pod.
thinking of it as
Yeah.
a group,
Well,
a
that's a
groove pod as a
handle.
thing.
Well, that's the handle. Like it's
I
always
know.
been lost in the groove pod. So I always get confused because
Yes.
the email is lost in the groove with 3 O's, and then the handle is.
But I just like thinking of the concept of there being something called a groove pod.
I'll make one day. We'll make one together. I have an
Yes.
idea of what a groove
Yeah, we'll
pod
make
would be.
one day when you go to Burning Man and I go back to Burning Man, we'll make a groove pod.
I'm thinking of a groove pod as like, okay, here's my idea. Imagine like one of those eggshells. You know, those eggshells from like those 70s chairs, right? And
Yes, Saturn has been refurbishing one for months.
I know what happened to that thing.
Oh, it's still going on. It's still happening. I mean, it's gotten pretty cool now. Now it's white instead of black, and it has like a bunch of like I cut some hexagons for it, so now it has like a bunch of like hexagons around it.
Ooh.
It's really cool. It's very impressive. Everybody who goes inside of it is very impressed by it. Saturn hooked up like Saturn is my partner, by the way. Saturn hooked up like audio to it, so it's like really powerful audio.
I love that.
It's dope.
So, okay. Everybody's got the picture of that. Now, like picture something like that, right? And you have like a giant record underneath, and then it spins.
That would be very cool.
And wait, I'm not even finished. What imagine if it was like a giant needle that like had like just a ray of lights, and then like just kind of go around with it. Huh?
That would be very cool. This egg chair has LEDs.
That is pretty cool. I love like you can add LEDs to fucking everything, you know?
I know, it's great.
And Saturn knows how to like program the shit. So
Oh yeah. No, Saturn's really good at it.
damn. And I'm just saying, anybody that's like
It's
interested,
cool. It's very cool.
it is very cool. And like if you're interested to like see what's going on, Eli's got a few pages where she posts this stuff. Eli, where do you
That's
post?
true.
Where do you post your stuff? Tell our audience where can they find you?
Mostly on Instagram. I mostly do it on Instagram.
Ooh.
My main page is Eli Somebody. And then I have a digital page that's called Eli's Digital Playground. All one word. So Eli Somebunny is one word as well. It's at ELISOMEBUNNY. And you can follow that. Also on my TikTok, which is the same word, Eli Somebunny. So I just use Eli Somebunny as like a moniker for myself. And it's sort of my non-legal name.
Hey, we all deserve
And
a non-legal name.
I have other Instagram pages too, but those are more delegated for specific things. I think that the main Instagram page is the more fun one.
Yes, it is a lot of fun, and it's very enjoyable when Eli has a cool hat or one of the critters or one of
Yes.
the little rats that have come out to. Oh my god! Sometimes I'm just like, they can be cute. They can be. They can be very cool. They can be very adorable. And with
They're
that,
great, especially Mr. Moon Pie. Mr. Moon Pie is a
Especially
really
Mr.
good starter rat for people who've never
Mm,
experienced rats before, because like people can get freaked out by rats and then they hold Mr. Moon Pie and they're like, wait, he's so sweet.
He's so
He's just this
fluffy.
big
He
fat.
just looks so fluffy.
He's so soft. He's doing good too. He's like almost 2 years old and he's like super healthy.
He's like to anybody that's listening, it's like brown. He's like a brownish color. He's got a weird.
He looks like a New York street rat.
Yeah, only a lot smaller. Yeah, because New York street rats.
He's 2 pounds. He is 2 pounds though.
Girl, there are times in New York where they found rats that were like 8 or 9 pounds. I'm not kidding.
I know. I want one so bad.
You don't want these. So no, you do. Trust me, well, New York rats are another level.
Is a nutria.
Is that a rat? Is that a type of rat?
Like a water rat. They're considered invasive pests. And people eat them in New Orleans.
Wow.
But I really want one.
As a pet, even though they're an invasive species.
Yes, as a pet. Well, I would neuter it so it couldn't reproduce.
Of course. You know, I mean.
Yes. I mean, I don't have to neuter the rats because they're chill. But I would neuter the nutria.
Oh, good. Listen. Listen. Anyway, for anyone that wants to learn more about the podcast and want to check out more, you can find us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Lost in the Groove Pod. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up. You ready to wrap it up?
It's been so nice being on it. Yeah, it's been so nice being back on the podcast. I missed it. Let's do more little random periodic podcasts.
Yes, we should. Definitely should.
Little episodes.
All right.
Yes.
Stay peaceful, my friends. Don't get into trouble. Only love.
Paint pictures.
Stay tuned.